Darling dear, you're never here. When I'm in pain, you hide and disappear. Like shadows in the atmosphere, charting the stratosphere. I prayed for you and kept you near, in hopes you'd chase away my fears. I'm on my own, you made it so, and now I'm chasing nightmares too. I used to run with you through the great big leaves, laugh at you when you laugh at me. Hope for us because I believe the home was just you and me. I thought you were the one for me, that's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas, oh you meant the world to me. Oh you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh, I thought you were the one for me, that's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas, oh you meant the world to me. Oh you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. I thought you were the one for me, that's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas, oh you meant the world to me.
All right, Thursday live stream. Here we are, guys. What's going on? As per usual, I have another setup, another different setup. So please let me know in the comments. I see Jacob's in there. If you could let me know that you can see me, we will get started. Is this thing on? What's going on? Can you guys hear me or no? Just give me like a loud and clear. Give me something. Give me something. Can see and hear. Oh, fantastic. Now I got to figure out. So there's a couple things that I want you guys actually to help me with. First and foremost, the last couple weeks, I've noticed that my mouth is different than what you're seeing on the screen. Like my mouth and the audio did not sync up. So if that is the case, can you please let me know? Or just let me know if it's like terrible, because I know over the last couple days, the last couple weeks, it's been super, super off. So I just want to make sure that that's all good. Because I think I finally found a software that I can actually, I can figure out exactly what's going on. So if we could just bear with me for 2 seconds. Properties. All right. I think we should be okay. Settings. Anything that's not perfect, I will work out when I can. Let's see. Video looks good. Output looks good. I think we're going to be pretty good here. Let's change this to this. Let me hold on to my back. Oh, what a train wreck. Am I back? I think I'm back. I'm trying to look and see. All right, I'm back. What a disaster here, guys. Trying to figure, there's so much technology. But every week I will be trying to make it better and better and better. That's all we can do, right? That's all we can ask for, is to make it better and better and better. Let's do this. Oh, golly. Oh, golly. I'm sure you guys are like, what is this guy doing over here? What is this guy doing? All right, now I can see everything. I can see the chat. Boom. Okay, let me get rid of this. That's going to distract me. And then I promise we're going to start podcasting. How the heck is everybody? All right. So first, just like every week, I have to shout out all of the channel members. I would like to do that now if I could. I think we have the same channel members as we did last week, but still want to shout them out. This is my other channel. Thank you guys to everybody that is a channel member. We got 4 of them. So we got Andy. We got Corey, we got Mike, and we got Christian. Christian's rocking the 10K. They're all rocking the 10K badges now, so they've been around for a couple months. But Christian, Mike, Corey, Andy, thank you so much for your support, guys. I appreciate you, and you allow me to get all this fancy stuff that I can't really figure out how to use. But I will figure it out, I promise, throughout time. I will figure out how to use all of this fancy equipment. There's my dog barking, so we know that, Kilo is saying hello as well. All right. Are we ready? I think we're ready. You'd think I'd have all this stuff figured out, but you can only figure so much stuff out. You can only figure so much stuff out when you're not live. So I had to do a bunch of stuff while I was live here. So I appreciate that. One thing I got to figure out, it's a little bright. It's a little bright, but. So this week, I want to talk about the 16-week training block and all the changes that have been made coming from the block that was in Canyons to this block. Because I made a list of them, and there's 7 major differences that I've made from the Canyons block over to this block. So I definitely want to talk about those. I'm also going to talk about the structure of the training block. So 16 weeks, how I've changed that structure, where I kind of got the ideas and things for that. And then I will take any questions. As always, if you have any questions about anything, we will do another live stream episode this week talking about week 1, because I am right in the middle of week 1 of training. So we will talk about those things as well. But this episode is primarily going to be just about the structure of the training and not so much how the week has been. All right. Sorry, I had to go into dark mode there. I've also put this onto a PDF. So because I know if you're listening to this on the playback, it may be hard to like follow along what I'm saying. So I will like offer that if you want, just email me at bradfinruns@gmail if you want like the PDF version of what I'm going to say so you can maybe follow along. Or if there's something that I said that you want to go back maybe and catch yourself up and see, you know, okay, that's what he was talking about, or what was that? Just email me and I'll send it to you. That's not a big deal for me. So first major change is going from distance volume into time volume. And this really I started dabbling with it towards the end of the Canyons block, but I had a coach then and we didn't want to change too many things up. And during the last 8 weeks or so since Canyons, I've really only been training on time and I love it. And all my buddies that I train with, they love it too. And it's just been one of those things. I'm even getting my wife on board with training towards time and not volume. And the thing that I really like the most about it is it allows for variation in your training. When we're training for ultra, a lot of the times we're going to be on trails and things like that, different terrains. It's just, there's so many factors that can affect pace and distance. So what I was thinking about when I say variation is terrain. You know, where if I were to go run for an hour on the track or an hour in the trails, my distance is going to be a lot different. And I really started noticing this when my coach would program like 25 miles in the trails. And I'm like, dude, that's going to take me like 8 hours. Like, is that really what you want me doing? Then he was like, no, we can kind of cap it at this amount of time. And I'm like, all right, so I'm training according to time. And he's like, yeah, for today, you can train according to time and that's going to be fine. And I was kind of thinking to myself, well, why don't I just make the entire training block time-based? You know, that would make things a lot easier. And that's kind of what I've decided to do. So it allows for the change in terrain. It also allows for change in weather. You know, right now we're going through summer heat in a lot of places in the country, and that change in heat or that variation of heat is definitely slowing down the pace. How far I would run in an hour and 15 minutes easy is much different right now than I would run an hour and 15 minutes in 85 degrees and 100% humidity. Like there's just a major difference there. It also allows for things like sickness. I'm not feeling well. I'm sore. I'm getting out a little bit slow. And I've also found that going by time, it's actually like increased my fitness a little bit, if that makes sense. But like, I feel like going for distance, it kind of punishes people that I hate to use the word less fit, but that's the word that I want to use. And I'll use my wife as an example. If I went out and I had an 8-hour training block and it was 8 hours. The whole week was dictated by time. And I gave my wife the exact same program. My miles would be more because I run faster than her. Simple as that. So if we were to take my miles and I were to run 50 miles and she were to run 50 miles, by her being a little less fit, I'm actually beating her into the ground more because she's trying to keep up with my mileage, where I'd be done in such a short amount of time where she would be, you know, now have to go so much more time. And a less fit person that's building a base really shouldn't be going more than the more fit person, in my opinion. And like I said, these are all my opinions. You could feel free to criticize them however you want. But now my wife and I can be on the same training program, get the same training stimulus. And yeah, my miles will be a little bit more, but the effectiveness of the training is still going to be the same. How is that going to translate to the race? I'm probably going to just finish a little bit faster than her, you know, unless she really starts picking up the pace. It's just it's a more predictable measure of fitness from what I've seen so far. That's the first thing. And I've loved it. So I highly consider it. And for all my athletes out there that are training under me, you've seen me start to switch from time-based over mileage base if you've been with me for a couple months. And I know it's been weird, but most of them, even after a couple weeks, have been like, I really, really like going into the time base. The next thing, the second major change, is there's more strength work. I had done a lot of strength work early with the Canyons block, but the consistency of that fell off mostly because I ran out of like quote time that I was willing to put towards training and take away from my family. And those sacrifices just didn't line up. So I found a program now through strength and consistency that I can do that doesn't take as much strength. It's more daily stuff and daily maintenance stuff, focusing more on core and also like the glutes and like that whole hip area. So I'm not really squatting heavy. I'm doing my normal push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, things like that, but really focusing more on banded exercise, resistance, and things like that. They're going to help me in some of those muscular places that break down late in the race for me. So I'm definitely going to add in more strength. The third major thing that I've changed this block is I've gone from 20-week training block down to 16. And actually, I think it was 22 for Canyons. So I've gone from 22 weeks down to 16. Now, why did I decide to make that change? Number one, I'm coming in with more aerobic fitness, where in the Canyons block, where my fitness was so low, I needed to spend a couple weeks, if not 2 months, building up to a certain amount of base that was appropriate for going into a 100 training block. So essentially those first 6 weeks were just being used to build that base. And without that base, I really don't need that extra 4 to 6 weeks. All right. As well as less chance for burnout. Like I could have started 4 weeks ago, but I know that I needed more of a break after Canyons. I needed a little bit more off season, and I'm glad I did that. So yeah, with less chance of burnout, if you are somebody that is going to be going into burnout more and more, or you find yourself getting burnt out, please, I beg you, consider, maybe going to a smaller training block in the future. Does anybody have any questions about those so far, or want to make any comments about them, or just leave a comment in the comment section just so I know that I'm still live. You guys are quiet tonight. Let me see if I can. I want to see if I can make this. This is what I'm looking at, guys. I want to see if I can get my other screen up to you, because then I could show you exactly what I'm looking at here. Yeah, no, it looks like I can't do it live. All right, I'll get it set up for next week. No biggie. No biggie, no biggie. So the next major change that I'm making, I guess this is number 4, is going from heart rate and making heart rate like second fiddle, if you will, and going more towards RPE, perceived effort. And I have like a whole list, and I'm not going to read them all out, but if you, like I said, if you want this document that I have, I'll be able to send it to you. Where like 1 to 2 is kind of like sitting on the couch, really no effort whatsoever. 2 to 3 is comfortably light. That's like kind of what I consider zone 2. Maybe even up to like 4 is zone 2. That 4-5 range is like upper zone 2. Maybe that's like your high MAF heart rate. 6 to 7 should start to really think like, okay, I'm running here. Maybe this is going to be like your 10K pace, maybe a tempo pace, a steady state pace, something like that. Once we get into like that 8, 9, and 10, that's when we're really, really working hard and busting our ass. And there's been some things since I've started using RPE that I've really, really liked. And first, I want to just say that my heart rate is so dialed in that I'm still focusing on my heart rate, but I don't need to think about it as much. I know without looking at my heart rate monitor, like where my heart rate is. So I found that it was almost holding me back. It was almost, it was holding me back. there were times where I wanted to go, but I was like, oh, gotta stay in my heart rate. And I was feeling really good, and my perceived effort was feeling really, really light. But for whatever reason, I just had to go for it. So I just want to say, like, I'm not throwing heart rate out the window. And if you're like, Brad, you've been the heart rate guy, you made me train heart rate. Now I'm training heart rate. Now you're saying you don't want to. It's all according to like the progress. And I really still think like heart rate is number one for beginners. Like you should have a really, really good aerobic base, and you should know exactly what's going on aerobically before you're worried about perceived effort, in my opinion. RPE has also been more realistic when it comes to like race day conditions, if that makes sense, and like minor changes that might affect heart rate. I've found that every single time I stood on the start line, my heart rate was like elevated by like 10 to 12 beats per minute, just because of race day nerves or coffee or whatever. And it made it really, really hard for me to use my heart rate as a guide because it was just thrown off by 10 to 12 beats per minute right from jump. And even when it wasn't, if my heart rate started to climb, I started thinking to myself like, nah, I feel good. I'm not going to slow down. Where I really was just using perceived effort. You know, if I would have just used perceived effort wouldn't have really factored in those nerves or that extra caffeine I had in the morning that causes it. It also, like, I feel like when I got to sudden changes, like when I went out to Utah and there was altitude, or when there was heat, I felt like it didn't really affect my heart rate so much as it affected my RPE. And I think that's really how I got myself into trouble in the SP50. I was going by heart rate, which didn't really change that much. It was kind of delayed and lagged with the heat and with the altitude. And I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to stick with my heart rate zone, but my perceived effort was so much higher. Like, how hard I felt like I was pushing didn't match my heart rate, and that ended up biting me in the ass by the end of the day. So if I would have been more like, hey, this feels hard, let's back off, even though the heart rate's right, I think I would have been a lot better prepared for that particular race. The fifth thing that I'm doing differently is I'm eating way more and drinking way more during training runs. And I mentioned this in a story or a reel the other day that I had been just not bringing water or nutrition for anything under really 90 minutes, mostly because I was lazy. I didn't want to carry a bottle. And I've realized now, and I think it was actually Jacob who said to me, like, I made fun of him for bringing a bottle for like 90 minutes. And he was like, I'm not going to go 90 minutes in a race and not drink. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And he's like, yeah, let's train that gut. You know, we have to keep giving the stomach calories so the body doesn't think, oh, we don't need our stomach anymore. And then it diverts blood away to our legs. And then when we call for calories, there's no blood there in the stomach to help it out. And it's like, no, we sent all the blood over to the legs. You weren't eating and drinking. We assumed that you didn't need that anymore. So I've started eating, drinking way more, not just because of the heat, but just in general, even on cool days or even at night. I find myself eating and drinking for any amount of distance. And I've seen an increase in how I feel during, but also I'm recovering way better. How I feel the hours after have been just exponentially better. So that's good. I've also been using way more liquid nutrition than solid. And, I was a big Honey Stinger waffles guy. In the heat, they just turned to bits. So they'll be back in the fall probably. But more times than not, I found myself able to drink when I didn't want to eat. Like the first thing that went for me was definitely eating. And once eating went for me, I had to drink, but I didn't have any calories in my bottle, which now I'm forcing myself to eat. I don't feel good. So now that I'm taking in pretty much all of my nutrition liquid wise, that has been a major game changer and something I'm looking forward, especially with like the flavorless. Like the Tailwind Naked has just been so good. Having that with me has just been so awesome. Why do I feel like? Oh, see? Sorry, guys. The chat was being weird. Oh, what's up, guys? What's up? Yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay. Sorry. I'm just realizing that the chat was here this whole time, and hold on a second. I'm going to bring it back in just to make sure it's good. Oh, there's not too many people in the chat. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Jacob says, that the comment for heart rate where less is more. Yeah, it's definitely, less is definitely more when it comes to that. Like, it's been nice not taking my heart rate monitor out for sure. So the next thing, I think this is number 6 on my list of major changes, is race-specific training earlier in the block. So this also, once again, goes back to that base fitness that I had and things like that. But I am doing like speed work and race-specific training earlier in the block than I did for canyons. For canyons, I felt like we just built a base for so long. And then kind of like that 6 to 10 weeks is really when we started to build vert. And I wish I would have started a little bit earlier, but I understand that coach needed to get me up to volume. So now that I'm up to volume, I think that I can just jump into more race-specific training earlier in the block. And you can kind of compare what my week 1 numbers are to yours and see, how they are similar and how they're different. And, we can make changes according to that. But so that's another change that I found that I made. And last is I'm going to be doing pullback weeks every 5th week instead of every 4th week. Now, essentially over that 16-week block, what that's done is that's eliminated 1 pullback week. So by default, it's increased my volume, and I can do this once again because I have that base of fitness. So now instead of 3 weeks on, 1 week off, I'm doing 4 weeks on, 1 week off as well. So those are the major 7 changes that I've made inside the training block so far. And now I'll talk about the actual 16 weeks and how those are going to break down. Do you guys have any questions about the 7 changes that I made? Okay, now this is the part where I know it might sound crazy if you don't have, or like if you're listening. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I have my, so Jacob asked, do you have your entire training planned out or are you building as it goes? I have the whole thing planned out, but I am open to making some changes. Yeah, so I am open to making some changes, but I have pretty much a pretty good skeleton of what I want to do over the 16 weeks. And this is the part where maybe it can be like a lot of numbers. And if you're like listening to this on a run or in the car or something like that on playback, you might want to like come back to this later, maybe with a pen and a pad, or like I said, email me and I'll send you this PDF. But the numbers that I'm about to tell you are how many hours I want for the week and what my long workout is for that week. In the first 4 weeks, I'm not really doing back-to-backs. Every Sunday following my long run, which is on Saturdays, will just be 1 hour. So that's kind of like my base building for the first 4 weeks. So the first 4 weeks look like this. Every long run is 3 hours. So I'm capping them at 3 hours, weeks 1 through 4. The total volume for the week is going to be 9, 9, and then 9:30, 9:30. So that's the first 4 week, the base building block. 9 hours with a 3 hour long run, 9 hours with a 3 hour long run. 9 hours, 30 minutes with a 3 hour long run. 9 hours, 30 minutes with a 3 hour long run. Now, what that 9 minutes is going to look like, we'll talk about on weekly episodes of what I just did and what I have coming up. All right, so we don't need to worry about the specifics there. On that 5th week, my pullback is going to go from 9:30 down to 7:45. And my long run is going to go from 3 hours down to 2:15. So that's going to be the first 5 week block. Okay. The next week, I'm really going to look at like building up to like some higher miles and things like that. But my intervals are going to get a little bit longer. So in weeks 1 through 4, like today, I did 6 by 2 minutes for 12 minutes worth of work. And all of my interval and tempo work is going to be pretty much 2, 3, or 4 minute blocks with equal rest, 1-to-1. When I get to weeks 6 through 9, I'm going to increase my time blocks and then go 2-to-1. So for example, I'll do 3 by 12 minutes with a 6-minute rest, or I'll do 3 by 10 minutes with a 5-minute rest, where the total work under tempo is going to be between 25 and 30 minutes as compared to the first 4 weeks, which is going to be somewhere between 12 and 15 minutes. So after that base of the first 4 weeks, in those next 4 weeks, I'm going to increase the amount or the duration of the tempo block that I'm going to be running. And what the hours and the long runs will look like there, once again, no back-to-backs, is 9:15, 3-hour long run. Week 7 is going to be a 10-hour block with a 3:30 long run. Week 8 is going to be a 10:30 block with a 4-hour long run. And then week 9 is going to be an 11-hour block with a 4:30 long run. So for those of you that are quick with math, I pretty much went up by a half hour every single week as far as total volume. And then also with my long runs from 3, 3:30, 4, and 4:30 as well. And then that 10th week, the pullback is going to be 7:30, and it's going to be a 1:30 long run. And that's going to lead me into pretty much 12, 13, 11, 12, 13, and 14, which are going to be my peak weeks. Now, during these peak weeks, that's when I'm going to really start to incorporate my back-to-backs and maybe cut down on the amount of speed work I'm doing. I'm going to keep the intensity, but not do anything too crazy here because I really, really want to focus on the volume. What that volume is going to look like, week 11, we're going to go up to 11 hours and 15 minutes with a 4-hour Saturday and a 2:30 Sunday. Then on week 12, we're going to go up by 15 minutes to 11:30 total volume with a 4 and a 3. Then on week 13, so there's going to be 4 weeks out, we're going to do 12:30 with a 5-hour long run and a 3-hour back-to-back. And then in week 14, which is going to be my peak week, it's going to be 13:30 and then a 5-hour and then a 4-hour. So 9 minutes on the weekends. On the 15th week, the taper week, I'm going to do 6:30 and really don't know what my long run's going to be yet. I'll kind of just figure that out. And then race week, I just race week, however it is. So, and that all that time is without any strength training. So that's just going to be primarily running. And then we're going to throw probably about 30 to 40 minutes a day of strength training on top of all that. And that'll get me to the end of that block. Are you still strength training during these blocks? Yeah. So I will be keeping strength, I would say, as long as I can. I mean, when we start getting up into 13-hour weeks, 13:30, I'm realistically, I'll probably have to cut some down. I am on summer vacation right now, so I do have a lot of time. But weeks 13, 14, and 15, I'm back to work. So yeah, I'm going to be keeping strength for as long as I can, especially with how good it's been making me feel over the last couple of weeks. Oh man, my dehumidifier just kicked on. Let me go shut that off. Nobody needs to be listening to the dehumidifier. So I really am. I'm going to keep it going for as long as I can. And I think with how committed I am to this and knowing that strength training for canyons would have helped me move and helped me feel good. This, I know that the strength training I want to do is going to help me go faster. Where in canyons, obviously I wanted to move, but this I have a specific time goal. And I know that strength work and that core work and that glute work, I think that's going to help me go faster and help me get to my goal. So yeah, I'm going to hold on to that for as long as humanly possible. But that's really it, guys. So we got the 7 major changes that I'm making. I'm going from distance to time, doing more strength, a shorter block. I'm going for perceived effort instead of heart rate, eating and drinking a lot more, doing race-specific training earlier in the block, and then I'm pulling back every 5 weeks instead of every 4 weeks. So Derek said, how much of this, based on the previous trail videos, how much of this course is, quote, runnable, like you're able to move? The course is considered fast. It's pretty much all runnable. I believe it's got roughly 6,000 feet of change. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to have my head down grinding up many hills. So this is, it's considered one of the faster hundreds, one of the more runnable hundreds in the country, with the exception of some track ones and some ones with really, really maybe on the road or something like that. But as far as trail, there are some soft sandy spots. There's some stuff that goes down into the Arizona washes, where there's water runoff and things like that. But for the most part, I think this is going to be a steady jog. And I have not ruled out for race day some sort of run-walk strategy, at least early on too, depending on how hot it is, and kind of waiting for the night and knowing that I'm going to, if I have to conserve and go slower to avoid heat and heat exhaustion and wait for that nighttime to really move, I think that's going to be kind of the goal, and that's what I'm looking on doing. But yeah, to go sub 24, man, we have to go faster than 14-minute pace. So for 100, faster than 14-minute pace, that's definitely going to be runnable. Anything about the changes that have been difficult to adjust to? Yes. If I just look at some of them, I'll say some of the ones that are easier, and the ones that are difficult, switching from time to mileage, that was an ego switch, because I like getting mileage on Strava, but now that was quick. I got over that so even today when it was hot as hell, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if I had to shoot for a mileage, that would really, really suck. Strength has been fine, smaller blocks fine, heart rate, that's been really, really awesome. Eating and drinking way more has been a major transition. I tend to have a little bit of a weak stomach too, as it is, and I come from a background of not eating a lot, intermittent fasting, and getting most of my calories when I was an alcoholic and drinking, still an alcoholic, but not drinking. That's been the hardest one, is forcing myself to eat more calories. I've gained about 20 pounds since Canyons of healthy, good weight. I was definitely way too lean for Canyons, but I found myself just not being able to keep any weight on. And I think that was because I wasn't really training early enough to eat on long runs and eat on shorter runs. I'm definitely intaking a lot more calories than I was then, but that's been a major, major transition so far. The other one that I really haven't got to dabble with yet is the 5th week rest. I don't know how that's going to feel, but even in the Canyons block, I never found myself really needing a rest day or needing a rest pullback week. Maybe one or two of them, I was like, oh man, I could really, really use one, normally because I needed a mental break or I was on vacation or something like that. But I tend to do better with more activity and more structure. So I think it's actually going to be better for me, but time will tell as far as that's concerned. But those have been the major things that have been difficult. Just mostly just the eating one. I don't know if you missed it, how the speed goat's going. Yeah, there'll be a full, we'll talk about that more in the training episode later in the week, but I've liked them so far. I also got another pair of shoes in the mail today, La Sportiva Prodigio. And I am looking to make a switch away from the Challengers for a couple of different reasons that I'll talk about in the training episode coming up later in the week, because I do want to talk about the Challengers and where the journey that I've had with them. What's the pre-taper plan or Grand Canyon type experience? So I've mentioned in previous podcasts, and guys, thanks for the questions. Keep them going. It makes this so easy. In previous podcast episodes, I've talked about how I really think the Grand Canyon was a major game changer for me 4 weeks out, going through just a really, really hard day in race type conditions, carrying a full pack. And I knew that was something that I definitely wanted on the schedule. So I have a 50 miler on the schedule for September 28th in Harriman State Park in New York. It's called like the Suffering Bear. It's on Ultra Sign Up if you want to come get that smoke. But that's going to be kind of like the pre-race, 4 weeks out, 50 miler that I'm going to go for as part of like that last major effort like I did for the Grand Canyon. But you know me, there's some other things that might pop up along the way that I just have to jump into. I've actually had a talk with my wife, and this was going to be more on the training vlog as well, but I guess it's kind of it's a little bit different. I've just been spontaneously like signing up for races, and it's been a mistake to do so because ultras require so much mental stability and mental preparation as much as physical. So my last 2 races, I've kind of just signed up and like, oh, I'll just go do that. And I realized at SP50, you can't just go do a 50 miler at 8,000 feet in the heat. Can't do it. And I found out this past week, that you can't just go do a 60K and screw around the week leading up to it and not take recovery seriously and stay up too late for 4th of July and have maybe 1 or 2 too many cheeseburgers. Like, it just doesn't work like that. So I am going to be cutting back like just the random things that I've been doing. I am going up to New Hampshire next weekend, which I'm so fired up about, to pace Jigger Johnson, and then going out to Montana for the Crazy Mountain. So we're going to get a lot of adventure, but yeah, nothing really on the schedule. And I think I'm going to like tone back the Ultra Sign Up and stop just signing up for things unless Jacob wants to race, because I can't say no to that dude. Sub 20-minute 5K should be somewhere in that block, right? Yeah, I'm so close to that sub 20, and I do have a couple more of those summer run series races coming up. Actually, this week isn't a 5K. This week is a 1 mile on the beach in soft sand. So that should be a fun little time trial. But the sub 25K, it's coming. I gotta get it. It's something I wanted the sub 6 mile. I got that. I will be going for the sub 25K. The heat and humidity, it's hard right now, but I've been flirting with it. So yeah, Derek, I'm going for it. And we still have to do Ironman this summer too. So we'll see when that happens. You guys have any other questions? All right, guys. Thanks so much for being patient with me early on. I hope this gave you a little bit of an insight to what I'm doing and things I'm training, and kind of the foundation for the episodes that we're going to have as we have now officially entered the block. Just a quick teaser. I'm to Thursday, and I've had a great Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Mentally, I feel strong, feeling a lot better than I did through most of June and very early July. And I think that goes back with structure, and it goes to all the support that I get through the DMs and everything like that. So feeling good, ready to rock. I appreciate you guys. I will definitely talk to you soon. We're going to go live again. I know this is later in the week. We're going to get another episode going pretty soon at the end of this week to talk about week 1 training and how that went, and what we're going to be doing in week 2. All right, guys, I will talk.